Welcome to the Focused Fundraiser, where we discuss every week how to focus on the right fundraising practices, because doing more is not the goal. Doing what matters most should be. And the goal at this time is to hear from successful fundraisers who are in the trenches and who are willing to share those hard-earned practices that they use on a daily basis. Today, I am joined by Maya Severns. Maya is the Director of Development and Marketing at Lion Charter School in New York. Maya, welcome.
Hi, Rob. Great to be here. Thank you.
So let's jump into your background a little bit. You made a shift from teaching to student services. You were a dean for a bit, and then now into fundraising and development. I'm curious to know the turning point for you, why you moved into the development role, and just tell us a bit about your background.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky to be at a school where I could learn and grow and try different things and really grow my capacity. This is my 19th year at Lion. So I joined back in 2007 as a Latin teacher. Believe it or not, Latin was mandatory for all our middle schoolers at that time. We had sixth and seventh graders. We started with K and 6 when the school opened in 2006 and added one grade until we were able to reach K-12. We're actually the largest independent charter school in New York City. So it's been a really special place to learn and grow. And I had the opportunity when my predecessor actually moved back to Arizona to be closer to her family. This position became available, and it was just perfect timing, I guess I would say. I was coming back from my first maternity leave after having my first daughter. She's now almost 4, just started pre-K 4 here in New York. And it was, an opportunity to learn and grow more and go in a different direction. I think I appreciate that I have a lot of knowledge about the school and have met so many wonderful people here between the staff, the students, our families. And so it's great to kind of have that long view and be able to really use what I know about the school to tell the story of who we are. And of course, bring in others along the way to make sure we're hearing lots of different voices.
Very cool.
So that led to, kind of perfect timing in terms of me transitioning to this role.
So with all those hats that you've worn over those years, being at the same organization from the teacher to the dean to the fundraiser, I'm curious to know, looking back, what has been one thing that has stayed the same in fundraising and one thing that you've seen change over those years in fundraising?
Yeah, so I think there are sort of some signature events that we've always had here that have been great to kind of watch blossom and grow over the 20 years of the school's existence. We're now in our 20th year, which is amazing. Yay. I think what I've noticed is some real changes, and I joined this position at a critical time, really,
Sure.
when it was just coming back to full-time sort of in-person schooling after 18 months in New York City of having remote learning. And it was just a marked transitional year. And we were just really fortunate to have so many members of the community, so many supporters come out and help us be able to offer the services that we needed to our students, inclusive of technology that was really critical for their learning, for remote learning. We were also very fortunate that we had already instituted one-to-one Chromebooks for our students, so that lessened a bit the transition to remote learning. But we really counted on foundations, corporations, individuals to help just give us that extra boost beyond our per pupil funding to ensure that our students had the services that they needed, the technology that they needed, and the teachers that they needed to be
Mm.
successful. And so as we came back, we noticed a shift in terms of how individuals were giving. They gave so generously during the pandemic. And then we noticed that start to drop off as though almost like, okay, we're back to normal. We don't, need to give as much. Certainly appreciate all the folks who have, of course, and continue to give to us, and all the new donors that we have who are supporting us now. And so we have seen that, on an upswing at this point. But over the last 3 years, it's been really interesting to watch that transition, and then an increase in foundation funding that has helped support, especially things like summer learning and ensuring that our students are ready to be at their best when they, are in those seats for the very first time at the beginning of the school year, like they were last week in September. So that's something that I've sort of seen shift a bit in this role just in the 3 years that I've been in it.
Interesting. Do you feel like there has been anything that has stayed the same as far as when it comes to fundraising? These core concepts remain the same, relationships, whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, you named it. I would say it's relationships. I think the thing that has really helped people understand who we are and what our mission is and who the people we serve are is when people come in person. I have not yet seen someone come to our school, engage with our entire school community, and not walk away just really impressed and with lots of questions and lots of things to talk about for sure, but that has always been such a wonderful experience. We have student ambassadors who lead the tour at all of our different divisions, our elementary, middle, and high school. And so it offers opportunities for whoever that guest is, right? Not just donors, but whoever that guest is to interface with our student leaders, all of our students, our faculty, and then our administration, our staff. So it's really special for them to have that full experience. And I think that that's how people learn the most about our school. And I think that that has always been the case.
Hmm. So you sit in the role of development and marketing. How do you
Yeah.
feel like those support each other, or do you view them the same? So, like, getting them on campus and actually seeing the school is huge. I know that's huge for so many organizations of in-person connection. Do you see that as part of development? Do you see that as part of marketing? Both? Tell me a little bit about how being both is part of your job.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely intertwined. I think there are so many occasions where I've tried to separate them out. I'm just going to work on this kind of marketing work today, and I'm going to work on this kind of development work tomorrow, in terms of talking about focus, and it doesn't work. They really are intertwined, and we saw that so much last year. We were really intentional about drafting calendars and identifying big projects for. So I oversee marketing for the school, fundraising or development, and admissions. And so that is something that, or admissions recruitment specifically, but it's broadening now. And when we saw the intersections between these, we actually said, we can't have these live in different documents. This has to be just one calendar that's integrated because so many things we found where, this is getting put on all the different calendars because they absolutely intertwine. So they are very much connected. And I think I work with one other colleague. We're a powerhouse of two. And certainly we call on all of our staff to support when and wherever possible. And they're fantastic with that. And our board trustees as well are very supportive. But you have to be, efficient when you're working as a team of two. And we just found trying to separate things out, it wasn't efficient. What is good for general marketing for the school is also good for fundraising and usually vice versa.
So if you want to give kind of inside baseball here on programs that are effective for you guys when it comes to marketing. So you talked about getting
Yeah.
on campus. What are some of the things that you've found really effective in connecting donors or guests to your cause?
It's really speaking about our mission. It's also the storytelling is a huge part of it, and that's something that I love. I have a research background that I feel like I can really employ in this position. I love writing, and that's a wonderful thing that I can also employ in this position. And so connecting people to those stories and putting a face to the name, to the story, when and where possible, where it makes sense, right? Of course, sometimes there's sensitive content. You have to be careful around that in terms of ethical storytelling, but where we can, really making sure that we're connecting people to the genuine school community that we're serving and the stories that are their stories, and having them be able to share those stories directly
Yeah.
rather than through an intermediary where possible. In terms of programs, I think that there are certainly some that are highlights that are always of interest, right? We actually support students beyond. So, as part of our College Access and Success program, we support students beyond their graduation in 12th grade. And we have alumni success counselors who follow students closely for their first 2 years of college or post secondary experience, whatever that may be. And then we also offer support beyond that to our alumni. So they can always come in, they can ask for our help with resumes, with applying to jobs, graduate school, whatever the case may be. We also have we just celebrated the 10th. So this is the 10th year of our College Persistence Fund, where we give micro grants to alumni to help close the gap with their post-secondary pursuits. So often that's a tuition gap, but it can be other things like travel, a flight for study abroad, an extra book that they need, a scientific calculator, whatever the case may be. And so they can be something super small that's just like $100, but it makes all the difference for that student to be able to really complete their coursework successfully. Or it could be a few $1,000s to close a larger tuition gap that the student is experiencing. So that has been really powerful. And I think that that's a program people, they understand the power that's behind that and how that contributes to our graduates earning bachelor's degrees at 3 times the average of their peers. And then there are other programs, certainly that donors have wholeheartedly supported. Our athletics program is fantastic. In fact, if you go to our website and read our latest newsletter, you can, read a little article about our high school athletics department. Middle school athletics department is fantastic as well. So that's an enrichment opportunity for students. Our World Scholars program, where middle school students right now, 7th and 8th graders, are traveling abroad. We've had 3 international trips. 2 in the time that I've been in this role, 1 to Paris, France, and 1 to Italy this past May. So those have been things that donors can really, get behind and understand why it's important, and why that sets, sort of the school apart. And also our family program. We are deeply invested in our partnership with families and know that families help drive, what happens with our students and help drive the mission forward in a really critical way. And so supporting that, supporting teacher development, professional development. I mean, I could go on, but these are all the examples of the types of programs that really donors are happy to support because they understand the impact. I think literacy is always also another thing that stands out. Making sure that students are reading on grade level by 3rd grade is so important. And we just started the first ever endowment for Lion Charter School, and so that's something as well. Our founding COO, CFO, who also helped with our original charter, has really taken the lead on that. It's a big dream of his to leave something behind, a legacy behind to the school. And so he's been really instrumental in sort of reaching out to everyone in his network. And to date, we've raised over $1 million for that endowment fund.
Awesome. So you just named a lot of different programs, and I know that there are orgs out there listening that have a lot of different programs. I'm curious to know how you connect and align the program that a donor might care about rather than talking about all of
Mhm.
them. I assume that you are trying to segment your donor base and connect them with the programs that will actually be effective and that they actually want to care about and will donate for. How do you guys go about that?
So, in a number of different ways, I think that, well, when you referenced relationships, that's absolutely something that's remained critical. And I think in terms of individual donors, what I found, and I know lots of others have echoed on this podcast and others, that it's important to not just have the glossy, beautiful marketing email that goes out with all the wonderful things that are happening, or the newsletter that's giving everybody all the great highlights and, looks fantastic, all put together. But sometimes it's just the Gmail that has the right details about the right program that the donor is interested in, or a quick phone call or a Zoom meeting. Those personal touches are so critical to the work that we do every day. And I found those to be, the most impactful. And so that's how I've taken those opportunities to connect donors to what I know that they're passionate about. Oh, I know that you're passionate about, our graduation rates or our college access and success program. Let me draw your attention to, yes, to the latest newsletter, but to this specific article and this student that maybe you met on a tour, or, you know, um, there is someone who has generously donated a scholarship in memory of a sibling who passed away, who was a member of our faculty. And that scholarship enables 3 students actually each year to receive a scholarship of $3,500 each. And so that individual, I was actually able to share with her the story of a student who'd received that scholarship back when they graduated in 2021, who
Yeah.
just graduated from their undergrad institution, and be able to share that story with them, as well as a video of that now alum, sorry, not student, speaking at our college persistence fundraiser in June. So, she was able to sort of see, here's the picture of the student that you knew, right, that was awarded the scholarship or knew tangentially. Here's where the student is now. Here's the great work that they've done as a result, in part because of your generosity, and also, their own persistence.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you said earlier, storytelling is a major piece of it. A motto that in my past history, I ran a video production company, and our motto was story over statistics. You need
Absolutely.
statistics to support
Yeah,
story, but story comes first because that's what connects
always.
humans. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, from your perspective, Maya, how are donor expectations shifting today? You talked on this a little bit with the 2020 pandemic and the shift
Mhm.
there, but how do nonprofits stay relevant and stay effective today? And what are the expectations you're seeing from your donors?
I think it's the impact, right? They want to see the impact. It doesn't need to be anything super complicated or flashy, but it needs to be genuine. They want to know, what did my dollars do, right? Whether it was my $25 donation or my $25,000 donation, or my $250,000 donation, right? What has that done for your school community? So I think not necessarily that that's a shift away, I'm sure, from what donors wanted, more than 3 years ago before I was in this role, but it is something that I absolutely see now. And options, the option to, I want to be able to support the programs that matter to me, right? So sometimes it's also, what's the right fit? And, you might offer someone some different options and maybe they don't take any of them in that moment, but maybe later on there's something that speaks to them and that's where you'll see them come in, right? And then being able to just have that information, and that's why the donor records are so important. Obviously, like keeping critical notes of all of those things so that later on I can look back and say, oh, I noticed this person supported, 14 years ago. This was an email that was a nudge on my DonorDock action board actually yesterday. Oh, this person, their very first email, the nudge was about their donor anniversary of their first gift, was to our eighth grade Washington, D.C. trip,
Mm,
you know? And that person gave, I think it was like 10 or $25. And then since then, they've given and given and given again. And I noticed the most recent gift was to our World Scholars Program last year. So I can see now, okay, there's a connection to this kind of enrichment opportunity for our students. So I'm going to, one, thank the person profusely, right, for 14 years of support, but also let them know there's this event coming up in October to support our World Scholars Program this year, and we'd love to see you there, right? And so that's sort of an open invitation, like, hey, come back to see people, not just can you give again, right? That wasn't really the message, but we would love to have you in our community again.
mm. That's fantastic. And not to get on a soapbox here, but uh, using the data that you have and not just making it a data lake of you're collecting information of when they gave, but you're actually utilizing it.
Yeah.
You're actually inviting them into the story and not just making the ask once a year at your gala or whatever that is. That's huge. I
Hmm.
love that.
Hmm.
All right, let's shift a little bit towards burnout because that is such a big topic in the nonprofit and especially the fundraising
100%.
space. So
And in schools.
and in school. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is a so the question is pretty simple. What is a practice that you have developed over the years to help you avoid burnout yourself?
Yeah. So, just in small moments, it's taking a walk, it's breathing techniques. I practice yoga and recently was able to engage in coursework to earn my 200 hours yoga certification. And so, kind of coming back to that, it's movement, it's breath, taking a walk, listening to music, right? Those are ways that I avoid burnout. And then now, as a parent, I think the biggest way is to engage with my daughters. So I
Yeah.
have one daughter who will be 2 next week, and the other who will be 4 in November. And that just seeing how they look at the world and the curiosity and the lens through which they see everything is fantastic. And so I find that sometimes what I need, if they're around, nearby, is just closing the laptop or walking away from something or trying to turn my brain off from overthinking things and
Mm,
just engage with them in learning and play, and lightheartedness. And I think that that is a really, really great way, giving myself permission to enjoy that family time, whether it's, dance party on mom's bed or, let's go to the park or let's go to the trampoline gym, whatever it is. That is something that always lightens my mood, and always, gives me better perspective. And then I find that I'm able to come back with fresh ideas after that.
yep. So a balanced lifestyle of not working every day, but having rest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And giving yourself permission to do that.
right. All right. So last question. Fundraisers can feel overwhelmed. They have a ton of hats that they wear. It's usually not just fundraising. To your
Yeah.
point, you're doing all these other pieces.
Yeah.
It can feel overwhelming at times for a lot of fundraisers. If you were sitting across from somebody, what advice would you give them if they were feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah. I would give 2. Maybe that's cheating, but I would say stay true to your mission and goals. That's one way that you can really weed out the noise versus what's, not to be cliched, but mission critical. Keep that, as your North Star and find your people, find your support team. Sometimes they're built in your organizational structure and sometimes they're not, right? Sometimes they work in fundraising and sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes I'm bouncing ideas back and forth with a colleague and sometimes it's with my sister who doesn't work in fundraising at all, right? Or my mom or a friend. And that's okay, right? Find your people who are going to, really just be able to offer you a little bit of support, whatever that may be. And also, don't be afraid to, pull others in your organization. You don't need to sort of be a solo person doing fundraising. Fundraising isn't a solo act, it's a team sport. And I've heard that so many times from so many people. And that is 100% true. We have been most successful when we have a team of people working together towards whatever that common fundraising objective is, as opposed to, just me talking one on one to someone. And I believe firmly that it will always be that way. And that's what you need to, to drive the mission forward. And I think as a fundraiser where you're always feeling the pressure of like we need to meet the goals, right? And if we don't, thinking about all the things that your school community or whatever your organization does that you provide and worrying about what's not going to be, offered as a result if you don't hit those marks, that can be very daunting. But recognizing that if you have that support team, it is one, what you deserve, but it's also what your mission deserves. And from my experience, most people, when it's looked at through that lens, absolutely want to support.
Yeah, that's huge. So this is a little bit of a trick question. Whose job is it to get other people involved in fundraising and supporting yourself?
Oh, it's absolutely mine, but it's also, I would say, I'm part of our school senior leadership team, and I think it is our responsibility, to ensure that everyone knows that this is, it's everyone's responsibility, right? Driving the mission forward. We all have our primary job responsibilities, and this may not be our primary job responsibility, but supporting in small ways and the ways you can is so important. And I think that it's our job as leaders to send that message in positive ways to people, right? And not as a you need to do this kind of thing, but as we are all here together to support the mission. And often a lot of our campaign language is about togetherness, right? Together we are going to do this thing. And so I think as long as you are still in that framework, then it's absolutely appropriate. And you recognize people for it and you thank them for it. And you also recognize that it doesn't need to be, sort of the cliche of what fundraising is. You're not knocking on doors, and asking strangers. You're not making cold calls to people. You're not asking every single friend that you have necessarily, but it's just maybe sharing a post or trying to bring a friend to an event that you plan to attend, or simply asking a student how something supported them so that then we have a little bit more information, responding to surveys. Like those are perhaps small things to people, but they are all ways that really support the overall story that we tell and therefore the mission.
That's very good practical advice. Thank you. So, Maya, thank you so much for sharing all of this with your fellow fundraisers.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
For those listening, I hope that what Maya has shared, that it helps you simplify and focus on what matters most in your own fundraising career. And if you are curious about DonorDock and how it can help clarify and build a stronger donor base, you can visit us at DonorDock.com. We'll see you next week.